Hello and welcome to Meghan McCain's Happy Hour. I'm your host, Meghan McCain. I'm still trying to figure out how to intro my show's name. I was joking with my friend earlier I feel like I am saying, oh, do you remember from Austin Powers when he says, allow myself to introduce myself? That's how I feel when I'm saying that. Anyway, thank you for joining. I would also like to remind you to raise your hand to ask a question. If you're in the chat, we'd love to hear from you. My guest today is Katrina Szish, who is the anchor of America Agenda on Newsmax. And you can follow her on X and Instagram at Katrina Szish. And you can watch her show on Newsmax every day from 2 to 4 Eastern. But I actually know Katrina from way back when you were doing lifestyle and
Yes.
fashion and worked at Vogue. First of all, thank you so much for coming on, Katrina. I really wanted to have you on because you can do both. And my favorite lane of personality and commentator is someone who can do everything, pop culture and politics. And I know you can do both. Thank you so much for taking
Well,
time for coming
uh,
on.
thank you for the compliment and for the kind words. And it's funny because I remember years ago when I had done fashion, then went into entertainment, and then really wanted to get into politics. So many executive producers back in the day said, well, we need someone to wear one hat, and you've done so many different things. So you could never do politics. You could never be an anchor. You could never. But you know what? You can do whatever you want. So
You
thank you
can
for that.
do whatever you want. Can I ask you the switch though from doing, you worked at like Vogue and Us Magazine and all
Yep.
these like very, very fashiony. I would go so far as to say like just because I've done interviews with places like that, not with Vogue, but with Us Magazine and stuff. They're more liberal leaning spaces.
Way,
Yeah,
way.
how did you
Yes,
decide that you want to make the change?
I think it was something I always wanted to do way back when, in the early days of cable news networks. I had done an internship at CNN in DC in their political investigation unit. And there was something that went down then where I will just say that I got a very bad taste in my mouth about the state of journalism, where
Okay.
something was not reported accurately. I'd been the intern. I literally logged the interview by hand. It was an interview that they had done with Bob Woodward about a book he wrote. And I was so disappointed by how the story ended up, where something he said was taken out of context. And I said, you know what? I've always loved fashion. So I'm going to skip news and I'm going to go into fashion. But over the years, as we know, that journalism and media has changed so dramatically. And now it's viewed through different lenses. I thought this is the time to take my experience and also what I hated about news and what was disappointing about journalism and finally be able to embrace them. So Newsmax gave me that chance, and I'm coming up on 3 years here in May, and I'm super stoked. So it was a big challenge. Also, I think I had sort of imposter syndrome for a long time where it's like, spent most of my years writing for Vogue or reporting on celebrities, and politics was something that was more of a personal interest. I talked to my family or my husband or friends, whatever. So to actually do it on air, I had to build up my confidence and just say, you know what, this is something that has always been interesting to me personally. So get over it and just get out there.
I love it. I want to ask you just a question on the background of Vogue. So I like dabble in fact. Like I love fashion. I dabble in fashion, but I wouldn't like call myself a fashionista because when it gets right down to it, I don't find fashion very natural. Like I need people to help me. But I do know when I see a stylish, beautiful woman like you, whatever you feel about Trump, there is no doubting that our first lady is easily one of the most stylish women. I
Stunning.
think like ever, like in all of American history, let alone modern American history. It really
Yep.
upsets me that Vogue won't put her on a cover. I think Jill got two. Obviously, Vice President Harris definitely had one where she was in Converse and it looked weird. What is their
Yep. Michelle
hesitation?
Obama, of course. Yeah, you know what
Yeah.
it is? Totally. This is not even like spilling any tea, but Anna Winter, the editor in chief of Vogue, she loves politics. She's extraordinarily liberal. And even from when I was there many, many years ago, she's, doesn't view the magazine really as journalism. It's very much a point of view, and she's in charge. And so she puts on the cover who she thinks will sell magazines through her own point of view and, of course, experience. But she's clearly very vocally anti-Trump, very vocally anti-Republican, and it's just something that's her idea. I mean, I think it's
Mhm.
ridiculous, but I mean, she makes her own decisions and she does what she does. And I think Melania, to the point of actually being able to showcase designers, many of whom, because of Anna's decision to kind of cast her off in the world of fashion, refused to dress her. Which again, I think is so ridiculous because they were again silenced by the groupthink mentality of liberals and Democrats. And that even comes through in fashion, as we saw. And I really want to give kudos to Adam Lippis, a small niche American designer who dressed her for the inauguration. And good for him. I've met him, I've worked with him. He's been around for a long time. He's not a new guy or an up and comer on the scene, but he said, you know what? I want to do this because this is a beautiful woman. This is for the country, not for partisan politics. And I think it's great when designers actually are courageous to stand up to that.
I was really happy to see Oscar de la Renta doing Usha Vance because she did her inauguration outfit. And I
Yes,
think Ivanka,
beautiful.
because Oscar de la Renta, for people that maybe don't know that are watching, he is known for doing basically every first lady in modern history. And I was happy
Yes.
to see that come back. Do you think like we can look forward to seeing some designers get less skittish? I mean, maybe they won't get a Vogue cover, but I think everyone sees how like absurd, patently absurd it is. But do you think more
Yes.
designers will feel less hesitant to dress people like our second lady and our first lady than they did the first time?
I'll be very honest. I've talked to a lot of friends in the industry who are very liberal, former colleagues at Vogue and other magazines, some other designers, American designers, some of whom were very close friends with Ivana Trump and very much love Melania, but they have said point blank, yeah, sorry, no, people are too scared. They won't do it because they are too worried about their own brand, their own reputation, and the bottom line. And I think that's really disappointing. I'm not saying across the board that's going to be the case, but I don't think we're suddenly going to see a dramatic change. I mean, fashion houses like Oscar de la Renta, of course, he is not, he doesn't do the designs anymore, but they're historically more about fashion and beauty and the aesthetic as they are than politics or even being bullied into dressing or not dressing someone. But I think it's very different now with even the retail climate like it is, the luxury climate like it is. Designers are very, very careful who they align themselves with. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see a big change there.
It makes me really sad. I don't know. I
I
love the
know
way
it's a bummer, especially like Melania, as you said, she's so fashionable and she looks beautiful in clothing. And also she is someone who isn't originally from this country, but now she's first lady, and that represents an amazing, amazing trajectory, an amazing journey that she has been on. And I think sharing her story with readers, say in Vogue, would be beneficial. But again, I think they view her as, I think they described her as sort of maybe like a movie character or like an action hero star, something very frivolous as opposed to a legitimate first lady, which is sad.
makes me really, like I said, depressed about it. But because
It's
women in
it's a
America,
bummer. It's a bummer.
women in the country love fashion. We love all our first ladies dressing. I respectfully did not think, I thought Jill Biden could have been helped a lot and was not. The other thing is, you and I know all the secret designers that are secret conservatives on the DL because they send me
Yes.
shit. And there's a lot of you that are
I
not,
know.
that could be more public. It's fine. So,
I
like,
wish they would be. I wish they would. I even talked to a few, Megan, when I wanted to do a segment on my show, American Agenda. I have a show called a segment called The Other View. I was telling you about it every day, meaning it's not the view, it's the other view,
I love
where we
it.
have a smart women. I'd love to have you on, where we sit around and talk about everything similar to pop culture to politics. And I agree, having a holistic conversation about all of these things in our culture, in our society, in our country is so important and interesting when you can meld all of those things. But I'd asked several of those designers and others who you probably know, who you're referencing, hey, would you come on and even talk about what Melania might wear, about her influence on fashion? Will she have one? Ask the same questions you asked me. Will designers change? And they said, I wish I could, Katrina, because we're friends, and but I just can't for my brand. And I understand where they're coming from, but it's discouraging. As you said, it's sad.
We do know who you are too. I mean, like
I
they're not
know.
that
Come on,
subtle.
guys. Come on, gals. Yeah.
I know. I want to move on to some news of the day, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I saw a picture of you on your social media with RFK. I'm a big RFK fan. I
Yes.
think I'm
Huge.
probably I really appreciate and respect what he's doing. I feel like I definitely am a Maha mom. This morning it came out that he announced that the FDA is going to have, quote, Operation Stork Speed, which is that the FDA will increase testing for contaminants in formula and other children's food. It also extended a policy allowing individuals to import infant formula into the US for their personal use. This announcement comes after Consumer Reports published an analysis that found high levels of lead and arsenic in some formulas. Katrina, when I had my first daughter, I had not to get TMI for you. I had a very hard time latching in the beginning to breastfeed, and
Hmm.
my daughter had lost a pound. Which anyone that knows that it's like very dangerous for them to lose
Terrifying.
weight in the
Yeah.
beginning. So we had to give her formula, and then I found out after the fact that the formula had high fructose corn syrup in it, and I had a very uncomfortable conversation with the nurse about why is this that I don't even ingest? Why are you putting it in a newborn baby? Later, come to go down the hellscape of formula, and it did come out after I had my first daughter about the high levels of lead. Trying to find formula if you choose to, and I ended up doing formula after 6 months because I had to go back to work and it just wasn't feasible to breast pump or breastfeed anymore. But like the
Right.
idea of having to figure out if your newborn infant's food has lead or poison in it it was one of the most horrific experiences of my life. And that's not an exaggeration. On top of, I think you're the same as me, Katrina. I want to know why Skittles and Coffee Mate is banned in Europe and it's not banned here. Used to drink Coffee Mate.
Absolutely.
Why is it banned in Europe and not here? Why is it unsafe for Europeans to drink Coffee Mate and not here? This is one of the things I don't think people realize have radicalized people in this country, but particularly women, just because we're more traditionally, holistic and more, I guess focused on our food. I think just as a stereotype. Do you think that there will be? I'm thrilled with this news. Do you think RFK will continue down this path? And do you think I find particularly like Democrats don't understand just how radicalized people got during COVID in general about what we put in our body, but particularly with food?
Yeah, absolutely. And I even think back to, going back a little bit to my, fashion days, even when I would go to Europe to see the shows, like we would go to Italy, we'd go to Paris and do all that stuff. I would go to Italy and I seriously would eat pasta nonstop, all the cheese on the planet, drink my red wine, maybe throw in some arugula here and there. But I would come home and I would have back to the United States and I would have lost weight. And it always just shocked me because it was obviously the purity of the food in Europe was so different from all of the additives and everything that we had here. And I mean, that's when I first realized it, just simply from that contrast. But I do think that RFK Jr., absolutely. I mean, he is no shrinking violet. And obviously, he's been attacked on every level. He's used to that. And he's very focused on what he wants to do. And even when I interviewed him, I've interviewed him a couple of times. And he's just so also very smart. He is not easily swayed. And I think what he's doing also with the partnership and the endorsement and the help of Dr. Oz as well,
Mhm.
I mean, they know what they're going to do. And I think this is something that is way overdue in this country. And I'm glad that they're not just talking about it, but actively doing something about it. And again, it starts from a very young age. And like you said, your daughter, I mean, you have to start right away. And I mean, from birth at this point, most Americans have just been infused with crap.
Mhm.
And I absolutely believe we're going to see a dramatic change there.
Can I ask you? I saw, I don't know if you read this, but Vanity Fair has Gwyneth Paltrow on the cover. And one of the
Mhm.
questions they asked her is about being Maha. And when I say she does not say no, she does not say no. And you and I can read between the lines of a lot of things. And she talks about
Yes.
how she drinks raw milk. And same thing we're saying, the country is like really overdue for some reform in this area. Why is it that, again, you and I just go back to this theme? Like, I know a lot of people who are secret, particularly RFK supporters. I don't know why people think he's so crazy because I found like some of his vaccine stuff I disagree with. But then when I interviewed him, I asked him if he would take away any vaccines and I couldn't vaccinate my kids.
Yep.
He said no. So I don't really
Same.
understand why anyone would think he was radical. Is it just that he's associated with Trump? Because I really feel like he's been the gateway person for so many people to end up voting for Trump. And I don't understand why he's labeled in this way when so many people I know love him so much.
I think it started way before he was with Trump on Trump's team, or however you want to phrase it, or supported Trump. I think it was just the fact that he presented such a viable threat to the entrenched Democratic Party that was and that had been. Just the fact that they wouldn't even consider him a viable candidate. It started there. And so I think they were trying to dig deep into, okay, who is this person and how can we destroy them, destroy their credibility? And I think that's where he's wacky. He said he had a worm in his brain. He said, he's going to get rid of all the vaccines. As you said, you've interviewed him, I've interviewed him. And he said, no, listen, I'm not going to get rid of, the polio vaccine and all those basic things that have been proven. And his point in that was anything that has been tested and studied for that period of time, it's fine. But the idea, to your point with food, of putting something in our body that has not been extensively tested, where we don't know exactly what it is, what the mechanism of actions are, and what it can do to our bodies over time, that's what we should be able to decide if we want to use or not, which to me is completely practical. And to me, to reference, what you said with Gwyneth Paltrow, it's like, well, I'm putting it in my body, so I'd like to know what it is, and I don't want to have to be forced to ingest it or to, take a vaccine or whatever it may be. I don't think it's reckless. I think it's practical and it's giving Americans the choice.
I agree. And the other thing that really, when I experienced, like when I first had my daughter, the wealth disparity for people that can afford the better formula.
Yes.
For people that can import the formula from Europe because they have different standards, supposed to be cleaner. I mean, we're talking about like money can get you access to clean food and poverty does not. And that's garbage in the United States of America. Katrina, I do want to move on to, I found this clip online today. It was going around social media. I am no fan of Tim Walz. I thought he was, and I don't want to, I don't want to, offend all our delicate people out here, but I thought he was a total freak. I was an early Tim Walz hater. Ask Mark Halperin, our lovely overhead guy. Yes. I don't know what to call him right here. But I want to show you this clip today, number one, of him on Gavin Newsom's really ridiculous podcast.
This notion of toxicity in masculinity needs to be separated. And I think it's been conflated. And I think we're going to have to work on that a little bit. And I think there is a crisis.
I think some of us scare them. I think I scare them a little bit why they spend so much time on this. No, I'm serious, because I can fix a truck. They know I'm not bullshitting on this. Yeah. I'm not putting this in people's grill. I don't know if my identity is not hunting. My identity is not football coaching. My identity is not, a beard and a truck.
Katrina, his entire identity was that he brought the camo hat back when he was running. For anyone that ever, I grew up hunting, there's a clip of him trying to load a shotgun and his shells fall over the ground.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
clearly not good at it. Democrats have a problem with masculinity in general, and Trump carried men by 12 points in November, including, this is crazy, 57% of men under 30. I think Democrats are smart enough to know that they have a masculinity problem, and that, I like a candidate no matter who. I am not personally drawn to who's the vice chair of the DNC, the guy who is the gun person. I apologize.
I know what you mean. Yes.
David Hobbs, excuse me. Yes.
Yes.
Why do you think Governor Walz is coming out this aggressively on this? He obviously wants to run for president. That's lunacy. I just can't stand him, Katrina. I'm sorry to be a little gauche about it, but I just can't stand him.
I don't think you're gauche. I think you're honest. And I think most well, I shouldn't say most Americans, but I've been talking to people, even here at the office. I was like, what do you think of this Walz video, that you showed? And it's just he's such he's so awkward. There's something about when he would come out on stage, the weird noises he'd make and the hand gestures and everything. I got reminiscent vibes of the Howard Dean scream. There's just something about him that, as the kids will say, he's cringe, but also he seems to be so desperate to create an identity for himself, an identity, frankly, even for the Democratic Party, which I don't think they have right now, that he's willing to jump on anything that works. As you said, it seems I think it was the Democratic Party who kind of coined the concept of toxic masculinity, where they were insulting people who voted for Trump, people who maybe describe themselves as MAGA because they drove pickup trucks and all those things. And now we have, as you say, Tim Walz, who's trying to kind of be that guy. I think we're seeing Gavin Newsom do the same thing with his podcast. We're seeing a lot of Democrats, I think, try to move a little bit more to the middle. And so I think that's what they're trying to do. But the point is, what I think they're lacking, particularly Walz, is the authenticity. And that's why people saw through Kamala Harris and Tim Walz during the election, because they were like, who are these people? They're whoever, they think we want them to be, which means that they don't even know who they are. And I think, again, Tim Walz, we see him hunting, no pun intended, for an identity, and I don't think he knows what that is. But he's definitely cringe. And also, I mean, I don't know, you probably saw too what he went on today. Another clip that was circulating was him gleefully celebrating the decline of Tesla
what is
stock.
That? It's terrible.
That's insane to me.
Why
it's
did
insane.
He do that?
Because he even said, I even wrote down a quote. He said, I take great pleasure in the fact that this guy's life is going to get very, very difficult, referencing Elon Musk. What's interesting then is you think, okay, fine. You were running for VP. You want to run for president. You're celebrating not just Tesla stock going down. Fine. If you hate Elon Musk, that's your business. But what you're also then celebrating is the 120,000+ Americans employed by Tesla who may be challenged, the people who may have had their entire retirement go down because they invested in Tesla stock. So this is a guy, again, who can't even think through the basics of what he's doing. And now he's doing these, faux stand-up routines outside of the state he governs. That was in Wisconsin. He's governor of Minnesota. So again, he's a man searching for an identity.
I saw that clip too, and I just was so, again, like you said, it's not just about Elon Musk. It's about the custodians working at the Tesla factory. It's about the, people working on the conveyor belt, whatever. And I just thought, like, it's the last image Democrats need right now when they're at 27% approval rating, according to the last CNN poll, that you're like celebrating people's potential loss of jobs in an economy that still feels shaky. Like, I agree with you. He's just not it. And he's on tour right now, and Bernie Sanders is on tour. And I'm like, if you're trying to win over the normies, which I consider myself one of, this is like the last, like, put him in a basement, like, do not put him out anywhere. And I don't understand why people don't get, like, this man is toxic for Democrats. Tim Walz is not it.
I agree.
In any way.
He's not.
And that stupid camel hat.
Well, it's stupid. I actually have a question for you. On one of your recent shows, you said that you think AOC is, and I might get the exact word wrong, but one of the the stronger voices or maybe one of the strongest voices in the Democrat Party now, that you think she's a very viable politician for the future. And again, I might be getting your words wrong there, but I think that's very interesting, because also in one of those recent polls, it came up that she reflects, in a Newsweek poll, that she reflects Democrats' core values more than Kamala Harris, more than Gavin Newsom. But then I also think she's so progressive and so to the left. But then we see Democrats trying to get more back to the middle. Like, how does that play? Like, why do you think she is such a strong voice?
So what I think is that she's the leader, but I don't think Democrats are concerned about winning. I think Democrats are okay with losing elections as long as they lose with an AOC progressive at the top of it. And some of that polling that came out last week, which I'm sure you talked about on your show for hours, showed the Democrats aren't just mad at Republicans. They're mad at Democrats for not fighting hard enough. And it seems like the base of that party wants the most radical extremists possible to go out there and tell Republicans to go screw themselves. And I think I've never underestimated her, but my problem with her is, there's all these rumors she's going to like primary or run against Schumer. If you can't win your home state, it's the same reason why I don't think that Mayor Pete has a chance. If you cannot go home and win your home state and get the people who know you the best to vote for you, then you just cannot become president. And I think for her, I don't see a rational position where she could possibly win the state of New York. It's like she forgets that, like, upstate and Long Island and Queens exists, like, the other areas.
Right.
So I just
exactly. She's in her tiny little district. Yeah.
But I do think that I don't think she's like going to run for president, but I do think she's like a major voice, because I don't think that Democrats care about winning. They're not like me. Like Republicans make concessions. Right. Like, look at what we're saying with like RFK, which I'm probably like a more RFK Tulsi Republican at this point, but it's like, we're like, okay, through them, we'll vote for this. Like Republicans just coalesce differently, and winning is very important. I think a lot of these like culture issues, and I respectfully, like, again, because I have friends on the left, I just don't think they like care about the end goal or can see, like, if one more person tells me that Jasmine Crockett is someone I should take seriously, I'm going to jump off a balcony. She's not someone's going to be taken seriously. She's great on the internet, great on cable news. But I'm sorry, this is not someone who's going to become a senator, let alone president or vice president. Sorry, my producer Ashley, who likes her. But on that note, Katrina, I do
Sorry,
want
Ashley.
she does. Sorry, Ashley. The audience is always like, you're always yelling at Ashley. I'm teasing her, and she's worked with me for a long time. It's fine. But I want to show you, speaking of this, so one of my obsessions, Katrina, is the downfall of the Obamas for a lot of different reasons, because obviously I was not a hope and change person from the beginning. And Michelle Obama has a new podcast. I know you're watching every single episode, Katrina, but she launched a new podcast called IMO with her brother. And the response has been really tepid, is putting it nicely. After launching Wednesday, she garnered only 65,000 combined views across 2 episodes by Thursday morning. The YouTube page for her podcast has garnered a shockingly low number at only 40K subscribers a week after its launch. For anybody that follows this is very bad. It's very, very, very bad.
Very bad. I mean, because even Gavin Newsom's podcast, reportedly tanked, but in 7 days, his first episode had almost 750,000 views, and you said this was like 60-something thousand,
64,000
over 2 episodes. So I mean, that's like really, really bad. I just
can I show you just before we continue? Can I show you this clip really quick?
Yeah.
I just want to show number 7. Sorry, I'm not as seamless with the clips as you are, Katrina.
That's another sort of unusual aspect to our lives. Our relationship was this whole, being married to the president of the United States thing.
Yeah.
that none of us kind of banked on. I mean, we knew Barack was smart and, ambitious, but, I think, but you talked me into supporting his run.
I did.
And he was smart enough to know that he needed to come to you and sell you on the idea.
Barack came to me and he's like, I can't convince your sister to go along with this. And I'm like, whoa, go along with what? And it's like, I think I'm going to run for president. And I was like, what? I convinced you to not penalize him for being really good at what he does.
All right. I have several things to unpack with you on this, Katrina. The first one is,
hear your thoughts. Go ahead.
I have so many things. We have to dig deep into this because there's like 5 different layers. The first one is, I said it before, I'll say it again. There's lots of rumors they're getting divorced and they're coming from legitimate places. I was raked over the internet coals for daring to say the secret that everybody in DC is talking about everywhere, but whatever. So if you are having like rumors that you and your husband are on the rocks, that's not how I would talk about him. Number 2, like you said, the YouTube and downloads are so abysmally low. And then also, I just think about the lack of power President Obama and Michelle Obama had getting out, particularly African-American voters in the last election. Is America just over them? Like this moment is fascinating to me.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I was mentioning that AOC poll, that in the Newsweek poll, and how AOC came out on top. And again, it wasn't like a ton of percentage points, but she was highest in terms of who represents the core values of the Democratic Party. Very, very, very low on that list was Obama. Not even on that list was Biden, but that's a different thing. But Obama, that surprised me because I think I also, come from a time frame where everybody put the Obamas on a pedestal. And it was like, they could do no wrong. And they were this young couple and they were just amazing and their legacy would live on. But I think, to your point, watching what they were not able to pull off during this past election season, I really think that their moments in the sun that I think they thought would go on forever is just over. I just don't think they're relevant anymore. And I totally agree. That's hard for them to probably very hard for them to grasp. For some reason, and I'm not sure why I think this yet, but I almost think it might be harder for Michelle to grasp than for Barack to grasp. And I don't know why. I haven't come to my conclusion as to why I think that, but maybe that's part of the podcast. I mean, I think she just thought she was this, kind of the I'll say the it girl forever. And again, she's fading from public relevance, and people don't care, as we saw by those numbers.
Yeah, it's just really interesting to see. I don't know who is advising her, like in what space, but everything about this podcast launch is a mistake, starting with doing it with her brother, starting with every time the clips. I've seen a lot of clips because, again, I'm just like really interested in this. And she has nothing good to say about anything. She hated being first lady. It sucked being married to the president. Her husband is always golfing when she's hanging out with her friends and trying to talk. She likes to go to bed early and he doesn't. It's like, why am I this involved in the Obama's marriage? I don't want to know this kind of stuff. It's weird. And again, maybe it's just like, I don't know. I'm a little waspy, but like you don't air out your stuff in public, let alone if you're in that position. And like I said, these rumors about them breaking up are pretty rampant that she's not helping by not showing up to the inauguration or President Carter's funeral. Do you think that they just like final question? And then I know we have a question from the audience, but what do they do? Like, do they just continue doing crappy podcasts? Like, I don't even know how you fix this, but they're getting into like a weird territory right now.
I agree. It's one of those things where it's kind of like you're overexposed and people don't want to hear from you, obviously. So this is where you kind of just visit Hawaii, stay in Hawaii, whatever it is, but this is where you shut down the public interaction. You keep whatever you're doing in your private life, that's fine, but clearly people really don't want to hear about it, and that makes it excessively awkward as well. It's not like people are, millions of viewers want to hear about what Michelle thinks is going on in their marriage. She's talking and nobody's listening. So I think this is where you just kind of walk into that sunset and just kind of step out of the public spotlight because we don't want to see them anymore.
Just hang out on David Geffen's yacht like you have been. Okay,
I think that's the thing. Like, do what you want.
Just like if someone gave me $100 million to shut up, I would shut up and go on a yacht, but that's just me, whatever. I think we have a question for Katrina. Is that correct? Are they coming up? Hi, William. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, William.
Hi. So, I guess, Megan, you answered this a little bit earlier, but I'll ask anyway. You were talking about sort of the next leader of the Democrats and AOC getting 10% in that poll. Obviously, it still means 90% didn't say that.
Yeah.
But, one of the things I was sort of curious about is why you think a lot of the members of the media haven't sort of pointed that out, and that sort of, I guess, a lot of these squad members that people think have sort of energy behind them are only in power in their own districts, partially because of how the maps are drawn, and that, for example, I live in New York, so not so far from AOC, but people in her district are not so different from the people in, between Torres's district or other parts of the Bronx and Queens that are totally 180 on some issues, and who sits in these seats is decided by primaries that don't have a whole lot of engagement because of how safe the districts are for the Democrats. So I guess my bigger question is, why do you not think some of the other folks in the media have pointed that out? Because as you've mentioned, generally, the folks in the media want to help the Democrats, and that they'll only rip on a Democrat when they think it will help the party's chances of winning in general. And you said they don't care about winning, they care about being pure or whatever, but usually winning, you saw after Biden dropped out, all of a sudden, the sort of, speaking of Harris, as she was like the greatest thing since sliced bread, she was the greatest
that was
ever.
the 180,
so
yeah.
Why aren't they sort of attacking that notion about AOC now, sort of nip that in the bud now versus 4 years from now if she would challenge Schumer?
Katrina, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really is.
Lee in Michigan or Omar in Minnesota, because those both have open Senate seats coming up, or Presley, if she wants to challenge Ed Markey in Massachusetts 2 years from now.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I really think it's just you're not seeing other media outlets come out, because I think the big story, honestly, right now is just what is going on with the Democratic Party. What is their identity? Do they have one? Now there's infighting. They're going against Schumer. I mean, I just think it's too early. I think it's still so fresh off their total evisceration in the election that they're just trying to get it together before they even go there and talk about a future leader. And I think they're afraid to do that because, as you pointed out, it failed miserably with Harris when they tried to spin that narrative. And I just think they have too many things to get lined up before they even start to go there. And I'm talking about the mainstream media specifically, trying to make her some sort of heir apparent or some voice. I don't know, Megan, what do you think?
No, and I also feel like it's that old like saying when you have no water, you'll drink sand. It's like they've got nobody. Democrats have nobody. They got nothing
Right.
and they got nobody. And like, AOC is very charismatic and she's beautiful and she's all these things, but she's got real wacky ideas that pull like garbage with normal Americans. And I just think that like she's also really been, I mean, to go back to, Katrina's old days, like this is a woman who's like invited to the Met Ball, who's like put on every single magazine cover, who's really lauded as like the second coming. But I don't see her as a president. I just see her as a very, loud leader. But I think they got nothing else. William, they got nothing else. Thank you so much for asking a question. I actually just want to ask Katrina one more thing before we get to Michael Moynihan. Katrina, I've been obsessed with this too. Kim Kardashian, I want to show these photos. She posed with a Cybertruck for something called Perfect Magazine, which I never heard of, in bed with a Tesla robot. Never heard of it. And you worked in fashion industry your whole time.
Yeah, never heard of it. No.
She's getting like eviscerated. Do we have the pictures, by the way? Did we show? Sorry, they're pulling up the pictures. Sorry, it's online. You'll see it. But she, you can see these pictures. So she's like posing super provocatively with a robot and with a Tesla truck. All right, maybe we won't have the pictures, but she's getting like eviscerated and just flooded with negative comments. I'm not a Kim Kardashian hater. I'm also not a Kim Kardashian lover. Is one of the most, and also this is the same time that like Tesla cars are getting, set on fire and defaced everywhere. Is the most controversial thing someone can do right now is own a Tesla and pose with a Tesla truck. And do you think she knew what she was doing? She also put a picture of Melania Trump up on Inauguration Day. Do you think maybe she's a secret Republican?
I think she has a lot of respect for President Trump and for Melania Trump. And I definitely think she not surprisingly would be, I'll say, like an unofficial Republican. She wouldn't announce it, but there have been enough subtleties that you've referenced that she could have done some of those things. I think she posted that picture on purpose as kind of a quiet support of everything that's going against Elon Musk and Tesla right now, which has gotten out of control. But those pictures were shot for, as you mentioned, Perfect Magazine, whatever that is, like last year before any of this was happening. But I do think that was, she didn't just happen to post it the other day. She posted it on that day for a reason. I mean, again, whether you love her, whether you hate her, whether you're ambivalent, she's no dummy. I mean, when you're talking about social media and making a point without saying anything, I mean, she's the queen of that. So yes, I think it was very, very deliberate.
Yeah, I do too. It's pretty interesting. But I also, a good change up for her might be like not being naked once in a while. I just feel like I've seen her naked a million times.
I know it doesn't have the same effect anymore. You're like, oh yeah, okay. There's another thong shot.
I'm like not shocked by it anymore. It's really fat. I'm like, oh yeah, she's naked again. I'm like, whatever. Katrina, you're such a delight. I really appreciate you taking time tonight. Is there anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
Thank you, Megan. I'm just so thrilled to be able to sit here and chat with you. And again, you've always been such an inspiration to me as a strong woman with a strong voice in the media and beyond. So again, thank you so much for having me. I want to see you on The Other View soon.
I will come on The Other View anytime you want. You have to come back here anytime I want. And you can follow Katrina at X and Instagram at Katrina Szish, Szish. And you can catch her show on Newsmax every day from 2 to 4. It's really good. I want people to say, like, don't sleep on Newsmax. It's very good. Like, there are a lot of really, really good shows on there. And I flip up all the time. Yeah. It really is. Like, it's very well done. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It really is.
Thanks,
and I'm
Megan.
kind of a tough critic. Anyway, thank you, Katrina. I'll see you soon. Okay, joining us, we have Michael Moynihan, who is here to tell us about his new two-way show, The Moynihan Report, which launches tomorrow of all things. Michael, thank you so much for coming on. Tell me about your new show.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It's tomorrow. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Want to show the trailer?
Sure.
Okay,
if I have to watch myself, I'll do it.
Got to do it. If we have it.
Do we have it? Do we have a clip?
There you go.
Michael Moynihan, and I am the host of a brand new show on two-way called The Moynihan Report. We'll be doing it live twice a week from New York City, and our guests will be the most influential people in politics, culture, music, film, media, you name it.
I don't know what I'm doing here, so just like...
We're not going to be tethered to the studio. We want to get out into the field and actually report the things that we're talking about, rather than sitting in our lovely offices pontificating about things that we never see. The Polish army put upwards of 17,000 troops across this border with Belarus. What I love about this show is that you too, as the viewer, can come on and be a jerk to me. And that's actually the thing that terrifies me the most about it, because I typically get to say whatever I want, and I say it in silence, and I'm protected. But I'm no longer protected, because you guys get to come on and tell me how much you loathe what I said. And hopefully, you'll like some of the things that I say, and you'll like the interviews, and you'll just come on to praise me, not to bury me. I will
Someone just put in the chat.
Gently press the subscribe button, because it's going to be the greatest show that you've ever seen.
Somebody just put in the chat, yay, I get to be a jerk to Moynihan. Congratulations.
Yay, you and everyone else.
Very excited to watch. Can I don't know if you're allowed to give me a hint, but what were you doing on the border of Poland?
Aha, yes. Well, I can give you a hint. I'm going to reveal a couple things, because I'll tell you who the first guest is, which I've been keeping close to my chest in case he decided that he didn't want to sit across from me and be interrogated. But the Poland thing is, I was in Poland about a month ago. And, look, it's a story about migration in Europe. There are not a lot of migrants in Poland, because Poland did what Donald Trump said he was going to do in his first term. There was an issue with immigration because Lukashenko and Belarus decided to weaponize migration against the Poles and against Western Europe, and decided to say, hey, if you come to Minsk, we'll let you go across the border. And there was no wall. So what did the Poles do? They built a wall, and they put 17,000 troops on the border. And they did what, everyone voted for Donald Trump the first time around to do. So it's a pretty interesting look at how the Poles have dealt with immigration in ways that we haven't.
That is fascinating. Is that your first episode?
That's not going to be the first episode. We want to have a kind of immigration type guest on that one. And we do have a great one too. Someone who knows a lot about Europe, and everyone knows who that person is. So it'll be fun. But tomorrow our guest is, I guess, a surprising one. So for the first episode, I will be sitting across from Anthony Weiner.
Oh my gosh.
Congressman who has returned to New York politics, and he's going to run for city council. Slid all the way back to the bottom. I don't think he'd deny that, and is trying to represent a district in Manhattan, the East Village, basically. So he's going to come on and talk to us about where he is, what happened to him, and the state of the Democratic Party. So excited for it.
One of the weirder news moments of my entire life, and I don't know if you asked him about this, I was living in LA, was watching Andrew Breitbart at his press conference basically say, correct, I told you so, that yes. Anthony Weiner, for people that don't know this, sent photos of his genitals I accidentally DM'd them, and
accidentally posted them.
Accidentally posted them. And Andrew Breitbart, may he rest in peace, the icon that he was, hammered it, said it's real. Anthony Weiner said it was a lie. And again, not to rehash old news, but I just remember watching that press conference and being like, politics in America is wild. And that was before Trump.
It was nothing. We had so much further to go.
Does he, I don't want to give too much away, but I'm very jealous you got to interview him, because he's a very compelling.
Oh no, by the
figure.
way, this is live tomorrow, so I haven't interviewed him yet. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Please ask him about Andrew Breitbart, if you don't mind. Yeah. And then also, do you think New York will accept him back? Because New York is a different city. Did you just vape?
No, I didn't do that. Why would I do that? On camera? Are you kidding me? I have respect for your viewers, Megan, and my nicotine habits. I love nicotine so much. It is so delicious, and I don't smoke anymore.
I just was making sure I wasn't losing my mind. I don't know.
No, I'm losing my mind.
It's totally fine. Just smoke light up whatever you need to get through an interview with me for 10 minutes. Michael, get whatever additive and drink you need. You guys don't know, Michael Moynihan and I have known each other an extremely long time.
Very long time.
Fine. I'm just teasing him.
I'm a huge fan of the McCain family. I don't say
my brother says hello, by the way. My brother Jimmy.
He's
for
the
people
best.
That don't know, Jimmy is my brother that endorsed Governor Walz and Vice President Harris very actively. I got to get him on here. And I told him, he said, what do you think? And I said, I love you so much. I love you so much. I've gotten tattoos with you. You're my favorite brother. He's my favorite brother. I'll say it. And I was like, you're wrong. And Trump's going to win handily. And it's going to hurt. You're going to hurt. And now that was true. And Just FYI.
But was he wrong to support her? I guess.
No. I just mean like he's wrong in the sense that like there's not gonna. I think he thought they were gonna win.
Yeah.
So, anyway, what do you think that people will accept Anthony Weiner back with open arms? Do you think New Yorkers care?
Look, we have Cuomo, who I think will become mayor of New York City, and I think that's the most likely thing.
Yeah, that piece of garbage. I hate him. He's responsible for my friend Janice Dean's in-laws for dying.
That's
horrible.
right. I didn't know that you know Janice Dean.
She's a dear friend of mine. And for people that don't know, Google that. Sorry, Michael, get on my soapbox.
No,
literally, her mother-in-law and father-in-law passed away because they had COVID positive patients put in their elderly care center, and they died within like 2 weeks of each other.
And the governor lied about it too, pretty aggressively. And of course, that's not what unseated him. Some sort of vague Me Too allegation, and it was quite vague, was what did it. But I mean, he's going to come back, and I imagine he'll do pretty well. And the reason is because New York City, Meghan. And I heard one of the people that I think William, his name, I think he said he was in New York City, is that the people that he will run against are usually to the left of Stalin. So that's when I'm like, oh my God, Mayor Adams, thank God. I'm like, this guy is the biggest dope on the planet. And we tend to forget that the people that he ran against were dopier than him and more extreme in about every way. So it's always, who do you pick that's going to be your executioner? Because they're all pretty bad. And but Weiner, on the other hand, like I look at the Cuomo thing, and I think that it's a slightly different thing because the COVID arguments and conversations that people still have here are still about 2 years behind. I mean, you go to the Whole Foods, this is a great social experiment, in Fort Greene, upper middle class, very liberal neighborhood, it's about 50% mask still. So,
oh my God.
So yeah, no, I was there the other day and I was like, that's a lot of masks. Everyone must be really sick. And I was like, oh shit, COVID. I remembered that that's what they're still doing. So they are forgiving of that with Cuomo. I don't know. I have to ask him about that. New Yorkers are very forgiving people. It's a very small election. So, and he's got name recognition. So who knows? Who knows?
You know, Michael, I'm messy and I'm spicy. And if I were interviewing him, I'd say, how do you feel about your ex-wife marrying into the Soros family? That'd be a question I would ask too, because she's engaged. People that don't know. But you're more polite than I am.
I'm a polite person.
You're a nice. You're not
a nice guy. I'm not somebody throwing punches. I mean, I might. The thing is I always say, like, I hope that somebody pisses me off, because I've had all these interviews in the past that have gone really, really poorly, because once somebody says something nasty to me, I just go, like, a switch goes off and I go crazy. But I think that he'll be, I mean, he's given a few interviews. Kristen Fleming, do you know her from New York Post, who's a lovely person?
I know of her. Yeah.
Yeah, she sat down with him in a diner and asked him the necessary questions immediately, and he answered. And I've met him before, and the reason he's on as a guest is I met him. I just happened to meet him in a social setting, I don't know, a couple of months ago. Had a couple of drinks, and I just asked him whatever I wanted to ask him, and he gave me really interesting answers, and it was pretty forthcoming. So I'm hoping that we'll get that. And,
I will.
Yeah.
100% watch, Michael. My last question for you, because I know we're like pushing up on time. I don't know if you saw the conversation about AOC being the front runner in all these polls of like the next future. Do you think she could actually run against Schumer? Do you think she's actually the future? I think Democrats are a hopeless just like mess, and that's all there is. I don't think that woman can be president, but you know, I've been wrong before. What do you think?
I disagreed with you, and you said she was beautiful. I just don't agree with you. I don't know why everyone.
Well,
says
I know
that.
your type, and that's not your type. So
what, like 6'5" Latvians?
Sounds like you like a blonde, wavy.
Like a little bit, like a lot of things. I'm very open-minded, Meghan. No, I think that it's amazing to watch a party be so adrift at a time, not only when they really cannot afford to be, but when there's so many openings. The Trump administration is giving them an opening every minute. And I see the most reliable criticisms of Trump, particularly on things like due process, coming from people on the right. And I pay attention to everyone. It's, you know, I'm reading Andy McCarthy and then the Wall Street Journal editorial page, and they're really hitting Trump on these things. And who's doing that in the Democratic side that's actually effective? I mean, look, you had the A team on MSNBC, which is essentially the D team, basically all get fired and their ratings go down. I mean, this is the thing that's crazy. If you're a magazine person, you remember that in the Bush administration, The Nation magazine, the left-wing political magazine, they like tripled their subscriptions. They went from like 100,000 to like 400,000 because they're in opposition. And MSNBC is in opposition, and they're doing worse than they've ever done. The opposition network should be actually, printing money at this point, but they all have the same tired arguments. I don't want to hear a Russian asset in the guy's rapist and this, that, and the other. It's like, take them on him on the issues, because there's plenty of things to take him on, particularly on the issues. And I just don't see anyone rising from the party or anybody that has any charisma. She's too far to the left. It's just, we are effectively a center-right country, and you're not going to win the presidency if you are AOC. I'm sorry. Maybe someone will dig this clip up. Remember Ann Coulter? She was on Bill Maher's show in like 2014 or something, and she said, "I think Donald Trump would be a great president," in a chorus of boos and laughter. And then you go back and you're like, oh, I guess Ann Coulter was right. Maybe that will be my moment here, but I just don't think that she has the kind of breadth of both sort of intellect and experience. I just don't think she just does not impress me. I dug up one final thing. We were doing the promo, and they were asking me for clips, and they didn't want to use old stuff. There's one bit of Alex Jones in there, which is from a long time ago.
Oh God.
It's just me laughing at him because he started talking about the Pizzagate stuff, and I just started laughing in his face. I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. But I found an interview of me and AOC on the day that she beat Joe Crowley, the day that she won in New York City. And I said, are you guys as a party handling the kind of immigration well? And I said, and this is a quote, I said, "This seems like an intractable problem for Democrats, not a pause." And she responded, "Immigration is not a problem in the United States of America." And it's like, this is not a prescient person when it comes to politics. So yeah, I think they're in enormous amounts of trouble, and they have to find a Josh Shapiro type to get behind, a sort of centrist candidate who's not a goofball and not a loon. So
I like Josh Shapiro. Yeah. And also her, because again, I'm petty and I'm messy. Her husband's not going to be first gentleman. He's just not. Sorry, guys.
Oh, no, he's not a gentleman. No.
Not just, I'm sorry, but like these things matter. Michael, I'm very excited to watch your new show, The Moynihan Report. You guys, it launches tomorrow at 4:00. Is that correct?
4 p.m. You got to be there.
4 p.m.
Yeah.
I will 100% watch. I'm so interested in hearing from Anthony Weiner, and I want to thank you for taking time to come on and promote it. You can come back on my little show anytime you want.
Megan, it's not a little show. It's a big show, and it's going to get bigger because you're going to
show.
have me on.
The baby
and
show.
I'm just going to explode it. It's just going to go nuts with me. So yeah, I will come back anytime because I love you dearly, and anytime.
And again, I've known Michael since I was an amoeba. It's not a joke. Since I think I was like 23.
You were quite young.
I guess. Thank you so much,
and
Michael.
You drank like you were 23 too. So
I used to drink before I went all Maha. I could drink with the best of them, but then you hit 30, and some of us got sober, but not all of us. Anyway. All right, I love you. I'm just kidding.
All right.
All right. See you guys. Thank you all
Megan.
so much for joining in. I'll see you guys again, same time, same place on Monday next week at 5:00. Bye. Have a great weekend.